Welcome to the Pursuit of Manliness podcast, where we are vigorously equipping men to pursue biblical manliness.
Well, men, welcome back to the podcast. I want to welcome back Kevan Chandler and Tommy Shelton to the podcast. Thank you, men, for making time today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
The garage door's
It's
up.
our joy. Thank you.
The garage door's up. It's a beautiful day in Indianapolis. I know it's a rare thing, so I don't know what we're going to hear out here, but hopefully we hear more from you guys than the cicadas or whatever's in the background. So,
It's not garbage pickup day, right?
you know what it is, actually. Was you on the last time it was garbage pickup day?
No, lucky guess.
It is garbage. It's Tuesday, but today is not recycle bin. I know that. So it's just
good.
normal garbage. But hey, man, Kevan, we've had you on before. So would you go first, just kind of introduce yourself, and then Tommy follow suit, and then we'll start to unpack your book.
Sure. So Kevan Chandler. I live in Indiana, up in Fort Wayne, and it's a beautiful day here as well. And I have a disease called spinal muscular atrophy that means that I've spent my life in a wheelchair and fully dependent on other people. And as we'll get more into later, that could be a frustrating thing, but it's actually proven to be a huge blessing in my life, and the depth of relationship that I've gotten to experience, and how it's pointed me and others back to the Lord. And so that's kind of my story. I also run a nonprofit called We Carry Kevan, where we come alongside families with disabilities and help them think outside the box when it comes to accessibility and community as well.
Beautiful. I'm Tommy Shelton. I'm a pastor at Live Oaks Bible Church in Palm Harbor, Florida. I have a disease called attention deficit disorder that I also firmly believe is degenerative. At least it's proven to be. But that's how Kevan has really helped me in this little journey. But yeah, I grew up in North Carolina, son of a pastor who is still pastoring, even though he retired, because pastors don't actually retire. They just stop getting paid. So I got that to look forward to. Yeah, but I mean, that's it. I mean, I'm a husband. I got 6 kids. So my everyday is full. And I like to say full rather than busy. Busy just implies just doing a lot of things. So I try for my days to be full. So I'm glad that joining this podcast is some of that fullness today. So thanks for having us.
Well, I'm jealous. You grew up in Carolina and live in Florida. You are prone to good weather, where Kevan and I are just susceptible to 4 seasons every month. You never know what we're going to get. So,
Oh goodness, I'd like a inch or two of snow right now. That'd probably cut down on the blazing heat. Only in Florida can you lose your shower fresh feeling 7 minutes after you take your shower on your way to your car. But no one's freezing to death down here. I can tell you that.
I've never talked about this before, but I saw a commercial the other day that a deodorant was good for 72 hours. And my junior high kids said, I need that one. I said, no, you don't. We don't do 72-hour deodorant. That's a scam. Trust me.
Yep.
Ask your friends. They don't want it. They don't want you to do that. All right. You got this book, The Hospitality of Need. When I think of this, I think of Galatians 6. Okay. And I'm going to get out of the way and let you guys explain this. What led you to write this book?
Well, Kevan led me to join him, so Kevan started it. So Kevan, you kick it off.
Sure. Well, yeah, I as I mentioned, I've lived 39 years of needing a lot of help, and I've gotten to experience some pretty remarkable things through that. And a few years ago, I think we talked about this on the last interview. A few years ago, some friends and I went to Europe, and we left my wheelchair at home, and they carried me in a backpack. And that was just an awesome experience of friendship and adventure together. And from there, I wrote a book about that. And the question kind of came up of like, okay, so what book follows that up? What do I share about now? And that was a very concentrated 3 weeks of my life. And I felt like maybe I should share about my other experiences, because not every day is, hopping over fences in England. Sometimes it's just being thankful for the guy that gets you up in the morning, the friend that helps you in the restroom at the coffee shop, and kind of the smaller, quieter moments. And so I wanted people to get to see that, kind of see behind the curtain of what those relationships look like. And I I was part of a prayer meeting a few years ago, and was thinking through this idea, but it really hadn't come together. It hadn't cohesed, I guess you could say. And I I was at this prayer meeting, and they asked me to share my testimony. And afterwards, the men came around and prayed for me. And one of my friends, in his prayer, thanked God for giving me the gift of the hospitality of need. And it kind of stuck with me. And it seemed like an odd phrase, but it seemed like something worth sitting on and processing. So uh, for the next couple of weeks, whenever guys came over to get me up in the morning, we have some time, to just sit and talk while I'm taking care of business. And so I would ask them, what does that mean to you when I say the hospitality of need? And so it led to some great conversations that ultimately unpacked the idea of the book, that our needs they have an element of hospitality in them. That if I invite you into my need, we are stepping together into uh, a room, an experience that um, can cause us to go deeper together. We can find rest, we can find healing, we can grow and mature together. And so that's where the idea came from. But I also, as it was coming together, I saw in the Gospels where Jesus had human needs, being fully God and fully man, and I I wanted to share those examples as well. And Tommy and I have been friends for a long time, and I really appreciate how he handles scripture in his sermons. And I would go down and visit him, and when I wasn't visiting, I would listen to his sermons online, and so I really trust him with the Bible and with his care for it. So, and we also, as a side note, we had wanted to write a book together for a few years, and so I called him up with a question about the book. Uh, the woman at the well, I was like, "Hey, I have this cultural question. I thought I would ask you, and here's why." And I explained the book, and I just saw his brain kind of open up and spill out with, "Well, if that's that, then that means this," and just kind of ran with it. So ultimately came back to him and said, "Hey, I want to write stories from throughout my life, and I would like for there to be a handful of chapters also specifically about Jesus in this situation. Can you write those ones? And I can focus on my life stories." And so that's how it all came together. Tommy, do you want to add anything to that?
Not much. Just that and it was your kind of heart and mind that whatever you said, however you phrased it, however you asked it, the hook for me was just this thought of one of the core tenets of what makes God who he is that he doesn't need anything. Like that's just part of his immutable nature. He didn't create to complete himself. He is complete in of himself. So it's it's more significant than we can actually fathom for Jesus in his incarnation to have any needs, like even a basic need, like need to drink water. It was kind of mind bending for me. I'm like, whoa, how is it that God can need as a part of his sovereign plan? So I kind of went from Jesus, sure, I can do that. Whoa, hold on, I can't do this. Kevin, I'm panicking. I can't do this. And Kevin just encouraged both of us just to keep writing, and we did. And I think we landed in at least a good spot to spark the right questions.
One of the things through the years that we have done in Tribe is we have a challenge every once in a while called the Pocket Dump. We just have guys show us what they carry on themselves every day, from keys to wallet to chapstick, whatever. One of the things that's always interesting is their knife. Now, depending on what they do for a living or what's allowed based on their employment, some men carry a knife, some men don't carry a knife, but it's always interesting to see how they talk about their knife, especially if it's one of value. There's the cheaper knives that we carry and we don't mind losing them, or if TSA takes them, that's fine. Then there's the other knives. And that's what olive knives are. They're the other knives. They're the knives that you would pass down to the next generation. I was looking today before I cut this promo that they just started in 2024, and they say they remain dedicated to pushing the boundaries and developing premium class knives. From conceptualizing on a piece of paper to launching our very first blade, we are proud to have created something that will truly outlive and outlast for generations to come. And I'll be honest, that's how I look at this knife. The knife I carry is the Lenta. This is a knife that I'll pass on to my son. This is a knife that he'll have. I know it'll be in just as good a shape as it is right now. And it's a knife that will have a story. So if you're looking for a knife, consider oliveknives.com. Look in the show notes. There's a link in there. You can save money on your next order. That way they know you heard of them through the pursuit of manliness. And there's definitely a skill set, one, to write a book, but two, to write a book with somebody else, because you guys, you have the Kevans, the Tommies, the both of yous, how it flows together. And clearly the Lord is directing that. And one of the things I appreciate about your book is it's very pragmatic. Sometimes I read a book that it feels like it's building on its, and I'm like, I guess I can't do anything with this till I get to chapter 12. But when I'm looking at what you're saying, it's very practical in everyday life. And so what are some of the practicalities that you'd like to see somebody get from this book?
So from a pastoral perspective, and I suppose you could say this is very convenient for a preacher, but I love the pulpit, I love the word, and I love shepherding and counseling. But when it comes to programmatic things, the corporates, the institutional stuff, I have a hard time. I feel like we over systematize like everything and over programatize everything. So what I got really excited about in the book is like, yes, it is, it's practical in that the first thing you need to do is just take a survey of yourself and the people that are around you and go, what are needs that I am, ignoring in other people? What are the needs that I'm ignoring in myself? And how would the Lord see those needs met? But what I love it is the huge overarching theme of it, which is, I think, blessedly kind of countercultural. And that is that, needs are not burdens, and need doesn't automatically mean shame. And I know, like, for men, we especially struggle with this because we want to be independent. We want to be the guy who gets to show up and solve every problem, without the help of anybody else. Well, there's only one guy who meets that qualification. That's Jesus. And Jesus actually wasn't ashamed of his, needs of the flesh, water, food, rest, help setting a table. Like, that didn't violate Christ's manliness, so why should it for us? So as a pastor, I'm just excited about helping to set that standard, that needs aren't shameful obstacles that need to be surmounted in private, that you can actually be vulnerable. And so if I'm willing to do that, maybe maybe Christ's people under shepherding will follow that lead.
Kevin?
Yeah. I, it's been interesting because so many of the examples in the book are from my own life and my own experience as a person with disabilities, as a person in a wheelchair, who can't bear weight or, feed himself half the time and things like that. And I did have a concern um, going into it that people would read it and say, oh, this is a book for people with disabilities, to address their needs. But really, um, it's for everyone because we all have weaknesses and limitations. Uh, and I think seeing what Tommy wrote about Jesus's use of need really speaks into that because we all get thirsty, we all get hungry, we all need a donkey, I guess. That
Hey, we all who hasn't needed a ride?
right? Who
You know?
hasn't needed a ride? Exactly, and so my hope and my prayer is between that as well as Tommy's testimony at the end, and we had two different guys write a forward and afterward that did a great job of kind of tying it all together. With all of these other voices involved, people will see that it's not just for someone with spinal muscular atrophy or cerebral palsy or spina bifida. It's for all of us, and as Tommy said, when you come down to that, um, you know, the big takeaway is, what are you going to do with your needs? Are you going to see them as a burden that you shamefully hide and tuck away? Or are you going to see them on the other end as an idol, as more important? They take priority over anything else that anyone else has, Or are you going to see your needs as a tool, as an opportunity to care for others, to be vulnerable with others, and to grow deeper together toward the Lord?
So, Kevin, I had a thought, and I don't know why it hasn't come up in conversation, because we've certainly had plenty of time for conversation lately, Kev. But and I don't know if I don't know if I don't know if it was the Holy Spirit or Mr. Rogers who prompted the idea in my mind, but quite a while back, I started asking for people to pray over me, like especially like on Sunday mornings, getting ready to preach. Like, hey, will you pray for me? And it's not it's 0% some kind of weird virtue signaling or manipulation or anything like that. It just occurred to me that asking for other people, specifically asking for other people, like, hey, I'm for whatever reason I'm really distracted this morning, and I really just want to focus on the word. Can you pray for me? I saw that as a real yeah, you could call it practical way, to kind of put this idea into practice, like in asking for, you could say, a random church member to lift up the pastor to prepare for the time in the Word. I'm not making a big deal of the preacher. I'm certainly not making a big deal of myself, but I think it exhibits this principle, like, will you lift me up to Jesus, and ask for him to, you know, to speak, ask for him to move instead of, you know, usually the reverse. We think of ourselves as pastors as like we're the guru, we're the Moses that have been sent to the people. So no, let me pray. Let me pray for you. That seems kind of humble, but actually it could possibly serve the opposite.
I almost feel like as a pastor, when I don't, like you just said, pray for you. If I don't do it, people look at you like, that's your job. You're supposed to be praying for them. Like, I know I'm going to let this guy do it. I'm delegating my authority to another brother who could just as good pray for.
Yeah.
Because as you guys are talking, in my mind, the pendulum is swinging all these different ways. Like I shouldn't say, I have met people through the life who are very needy, and there are times you're like, you could do some of these things on your own. That's one thing. I got people.
I've never thought that. What kind of pastor are you? That's crazy. I've never had that thought.
Believe me, I'm terrible. Okay, you're much better because you're wearing a shirt and tie on a Tuesday afternoon. You're a much better pastor than I am. But
no shorts.
This just got uncomfortable. Okay, so on the other end, I get into seasons where I'm like, it's just easier if I just do it myself, right? Even if it's not done great or whatever it is, or in a moment of frustration, I'll just fire off the email because fine. Yesterday there was an issue over a communion meditation. I'll just take care of it. Well, at some point you have nothing left to give, right? So there is, I say Galatians 6, we all carry our own load, but we help carry each other's burdens. And so I like the idea of hospitality because Peter talks about that, practicing showing hospitality. But hospitality doesn't just mean I open my door and have you over for dinner. Hospitality can literally be helping you with something you just need done, whatever that is, but looking how to serve other people, because this life cannot be about me. Men, we've made it to August. That means we're back to school, just about back to football, and we are just about back to the men's retreat. I know it's August, but this is the last full month of promoting the men's retreat. And if I could be honest with you, I do not enjoy promoting things. I don't think I'm a great salesman, but I feel like I need to do it. There's always a guy who at the last minute hears about the retreat and says, hey, I want to be in on it. It's happened in Tribe for the last 8 years. There's always someone on the last day who just heard about it. So I want to keep talking about it. I want to let you know registration closes Sunday, September 14th. I am so glad when registration closes. Not that I don't want more guys come to the retreat, just that the promotion period is over and we can get on with the retreat. Now, it has to close on the 14th because I want to make sure everything is ordered, everything is in place. We got all of our ducks in a row before all you guys show up here in Indianapolis. So if you go to the website, thepursuitofmanliness.com, you can find the retreat. It's in the gear store. There's a lot of information. I even have the tentative schedule listed there. Some guys want to know, hey, what time do I need to be there? What time can I get out of there? There's things all weekend long. So if you want to stay all the way to church on Sunday, you are more than welcome to do that. Men do that every year, but we just want you to get to the retreat for $45. We're going to feed you. We get times of worship, study. You get a shirt. You're going to get more than $45 worth, I promise. The only hiccup is this. We don't house you. You're more than welcome to camp out on the property. Some people bring their RVs or they camp out in their car. You can stay in an Airbnb. There's tons of them in the Indianapolis area. Stay in a hotel, whatever you want to do. That's your call, but we just want you to get here. Reminder, Sunday, September 14th, registration closes. I hope to see you Friday and Saturday, October 3rd and 4th. Let's add it in Sunday too. And Sunday, October 5th. We hope to see you then.
So, I had a friend who did a deep dive on the etymology of hospitality. And I had this friend do the deep dive because he understands words a lot better than I do. And so he came back to me and said, well, hospitality, we typically would define in the English language as being the state of being hospitable. It was like, you can eventually get there, but if you really want to get down to the brass tacks of it, a better definition etymologically would be the state of being a hospital. And so he and I proceeded to unpack that. Well, if we have hospitality, then that means we're like a hospital, which actually originally was more a statement of less about a building and more about the character of a person, which is kind of a cool note as well. But we just kind of unpacked it of saying, okay, here's what we know about hospitals. How do we apply that to ourselves? A hospital has doors. A hospital, you have people that come in to be cared for, and you also have doctors and ambulances that go out to care for people. And so we're not just inviting people in to our need as a means to care for them, but we're also going out to meet their needs. It's a reciprocal relationship that's ongoing. And then so that's one. Hospitals have doors, and then the second one, I might need help remembering these on the fly. Hospitals, they're we've all had kind of positive and negative experiences with the healthcare industry. The system. But hospitals should, in theory, they should observe and they should be attentive to what you need. So you're not going to go in with a stomach ache and come out with a cast on your leg. They're going to assess you and work with you to get you on a path to healing. And so how can we do that as people? In practicing hospitality, we can pay attention to the needs of others, even as we invite them into our needs. And so, and then the third was similar, but basically the idea that, again, systems are broken, but theoretically in a hospital, the cost is not the first question. You know, if somebody flatlines, the doctor's going to try and get them a heartbeat. You know, if somebody's if an ambulance is called, that ambulance is getting there. You know, hell or high water, they're going to get that person and get them back to the hospital, however they need to. You have life flight, you have organ donations, you have blood drives. You know, things. It's kind of whatever we have to do to get this person fixed, we will, and then bills come later, and we'll figure that out. But in the moment, the priority is the value of this person's life, and so how do we do that as people interacting with people? Well, you have to look at someone and not only see their need, but realize that Paul and Jesus and John and Peter and others in the Bible all say, hey, put others before yourself. You know, make them the priority, care for them. Care for them like you would care for yourself, and better, you know. And so that's kind of for that idea of who are we as a hospital, and how can we live that out better. That's where that came from.
Well, then you guys write a chapter, and great memory, by the way. I think the only one you missed was generous. I think generous. Maybe you worked together.
That was the third one. Sorry.
I'm not on a hospital marketing team, but I think a great billboard out front would be how many people leave better. Like, just give me the percentage. Is it 76%? I don't want to go with that. I'm up 90. I want that 90.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, with like the digital number next to it that you know fluctuates.
Like McDonald's used to have how many hamburgers we get it. You sell hamburgers. How many people leave here better? That's all I want to know. Because they're not, if they're leaving here not better, I'm going down the road. Well, chapter 5, I'll end with this chapter before we plug where we're going here. The hospitality of Jesus. You guys write this together. You talk about homeless and high priest. So there's kind of this unique dichotomy of Jesus. Explain putting that chapter together.
That's one of my favorite chapters in the book. And you know, people might ask, well, aren't all the chapters your favorite chapters? It's like, no, I actually I like some chapters a lot more than others, and that's one of my favorites. And it really is. It's the absolute most collaborative chapter that we did, to the point where I really, if I had two different color highlighters, like George Lucas going through the storyboards of episode 1, I could not, I don't think, accurately say what was Kevin's and what was mine. So I mean, just on a personal note, it's one of my favorite chapters because it really is the most collaborative. But yeah, I mean, that's the whole idea. That's the whole idea, is taking those thoughts on hospitality, and almost like the meditations of need itself, and you apply it directly to the life and ministry of Jesus. And I think it came out kind of beautiful, and I think compelling. And it's why I like this towards the beginning of the book too, because I think it helps to color the rest of it.
Yeah, it kind of came out of working on the other chapters, both mine and Tommy's, and having these kind of chunks of good truth about the life of Jesus that we felt like, well, they don't really fit here, or, you know, we've already said that in a different way here. And so we had just kind of saved all these thoughts and went back at the end and put them together and smoothed them out and realized this would be a great introduction to the idea that Jesus had human needs and what he did with those. And you know, touched on really the premise of that chapter, that Jesus isn't just a lofty, you know, high priest that doesn't know anything about our own sufferings, our own dealings, and he actually came and lived among us, and he can sympathize with anything that we've experienced, and that really helped us to wrap our heads around this idea of Jesus in the flesh also experiencing need, and if he's gonna handle it this way, then maybe we should too.
Yeah, and
It's almost like why didn't I'm always assuming that other people have had these thoughts before I have, and I'm not nearly as well read as like Kevin or as well read as we should be, but it really is almost obvious. It's like so everybody well nearly every Christian can recall that part of the Bible where it says that Jesus can sympathize with us and we usually think that in terms of like the temptations, like Jesus in the desert. And we kind of have a very big, galactic kind of view of it. But all of our temptations to sin have roots in our fleshly vulnerabilities and weaknesses. Like gluttony probably has a root in just a fear over when the next meal is going to come and it might not come. So I better, I'm gonna eat twice as much now because I might not have another one. So the fact that Jesus, like the root of Jesus being able to sympathize with us and understand our temptations is those just beginning needs of thirst and hunger and exhaustion and such. So it's almost like we spent so much time looking at the giant or the macro. We didn't actually see that it comes all the way down to the micro, which makes Jesus even more relatable in my just in the last 3 years of studying this. It certainly has for me.
And I think with the sanctification process that we're a part of, coming to Christ and being saved, becoming more like him, less like ourselves, that Jesus becomes more relatable if we follow him every day, taking up our cross all the way until we take our last breath. So that relationship should be growing in a more intimate way, a more of an understanding way. And then this idea here of not trying to be too proud, that when there is a need of any kind, whether it's me helping someone else or being helped, it's not a sign of weakness. It is, as you guys were talking about, practicing hospitality and modeling what Jesus did. Hey, I want to follow you. I got nowhere to live. I got other plans. I got to go mow the grass. I got to go check on, when he started telling people, here's my current situation, they said, maybe we'll circle back here after a bit, see how things are going with you, and the human heart hasn't changed a whole lot in 2000 plus years. But all right, man, where are we going to send guys? How are they going to find out more about you, this book? Where are we going?
I mean, the book is on Amazon. It's available anywhere good books
Wherever
are sold.
fine books are sold.
Yeah, wherever fine books are sold. And we're both on Instagram. They can look up Kevan Chandler. They can look up Tommy Shelton, and our pictures say it all. So you'll find us there.
You made the herd. We're going to continue that conversation over there.
Thank you again for tuning into the Pursuit of Manliness podcast. Please like, comment, and share the show. Also, if you would leave an iTunes review, that would be greatly appreciated. And remember, keep pursuing biblical manliness.